the second phase of the parliamentary elections taking place inside Egypt in the 13 governorates. We are delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Mrs. d.ماريان Gergis, the journalist. It's a very good afternoon to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon to you and your dear guests.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Now, the second day of the second phase, Dr. d.ماريان, of these elections. Tell me a bit about your reading of the current scene with the numbers of people that are heading to the polling stations and the different demographic representation.
Yes, actually I'm very proud of this participation,
yes.
And I think these numbers are increasing after the message of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi after the first phase, when he assured Egyptians either abroad or inside that everything in the electoral process is going fine and under the oversight of the National Elections Authority. Let me say that the parliamentary election is a very important thing that plays a crucial role in shaping the country's political landscape.
Yes.
Actually, we determine by our own hands and our own pens the representatives who will form the legislative body and influence the national policy in the upcoming 5 years. It's a very important and the central component of the political scene. Actually, we are drawing the political scene by casting our ballots and voting through this electoral process, and all the thanks and the praise to the Egyptian state for all the logistic preparation and all this organization, and even the electoral atmosphere is being changed from year to year, and it's being more mature than the previous phase, I mean.
Indeed.
So we are aiming at fair and transparent elections, essential for strengthening the democratic institutions and, of course, promoting the accountability.
Indeed. Now, Dr. d.ماريان, we are receiving reports, of course, throughout the day and coverage from our correspondents, and many of them have reported that they've witnessed a lot of women lining up and queuing to go cast their ballots, as well as the elderly as well, and their presence has indeed been felt as they practice their right and their constitutional duty, really, to vote. How do you see women's representation in this round?
Yes, as you say, this is a constitutional duty and it's a national duty in the first place. So all of us, we have to share. But for the women, we have to stop here and say that this is the golden era for the Egyptian woman to share in the political life. And we are seeing a significant growth in the percentage of women in either in the governmental cabinets or in the parliament. In the 2020 parliament, there is 27% of the women in the parliament. And all this constitutional changes is being made for the women. And I always say that when women sharing in the political life, it's not the benefit for the Egyptian woman only, it's also enriching the Egyptian vision 2030, and it's enriching the decision. We can make a very rich and a very mature decision by sharing the women and the youth in the political life. And of course, they are supported by legislative and constitutional changes. And let me take you back to the parliament of 2012. We were seeing misery in the share of the women. As you know, there were only 10 seats in the parliament of the Muslim Brotherhood in 2012 for the women. And of course, as I said, it was misery and it was undermining to the democracy and to the share of the women. And they were, even the 10 women that were present in the parliament, they were hindering and they were against the rights of the women by lowering the age marriage and amending the custody laws.
Indeed, very difficult and challenging time indeed in Egyptian history and Egyptian politics. But back to the present now, we've seen the full judicial supervision of the election process. How important is this with regards to ensuring transparency as well?
Yes, as you know, that Egypt is one of the few countries that the elections or the electoral process is under complete judiciary insurance or oversight. And any reported irregularities that raise questions about the transparency of the electoral process is being transferred to the National Elections Authority.
Yes.
And any citizen that feels that something wrong with his station or his spot, he can report this to the National Elections Authority. And there is a WhatsApp and there is a hotline that they can contact the National Elections Authority and report some irregularities or any violations to the electoral process, because the Egyptian state has the real intention that this these elections should go with very, very professional way and in a transparent way that will reflect the genuine will of the Egyptian people. As you know, this parliament will reshape the government, and this parliament is important for the economic reform, for the social services, for the national security. So all these things are very important for the Egyptian people. So for this, the Egyptian state is very keen the electoral process go in a professional way. We've seen in the first phase when there was some violations to the electoral process, some were cancelled totally, and of course this in the second phase will be revised and revised by the National Elections Authority.
Indeed. And how do you see, Dr. Marian, the role that the National Election Authority has played in order to facilitate, the monitoring process by non-governmental organizations or civil societies or even international observers that have come to observe and monitor the situation with regards to the parliamentary elections in Egypt?
Yes, the National Elections Authority made a lot of efforts so far, maybe from a decade, in the past decade, and we have seen many elections went through a professional way. And as you know, in non-governmental organizations and many international organizations are oversighting and checking the electoral process in Egypt. And any complaint, as I said, from the voters and many violations, or any behavior that does not go with the rules of the National Election Authority, of course this being reported, and we have to begin from the database, as you know, from the database that were organized in order to make it easy for the Egyptian citizen inside Egypt or even abroad in order to make it smooth and professional elections.
Indeed. Now finally, Dr. Marian, for my last question, as a journalist yourself, let's talk a bit about media coverage. How do you see national media coverage as well as international media coverage that have tackled the second day of the second phase of the parliamentary elections inside Egypt?
Yes, of course, media is a very important, I call it the soft power, yes, that it can draw the scene for all those who didn't share, and even the citizen that didn't share till now. He can see that all these numbers and all this and the people in old age going to cast their ballots. So I think the media has a very important role either inside Egypt to encourage all those who didn't participate in the elections, or even those who are abroad, and even to see how the Egyptian state, how the leadership are dealing and giving importance to the electoral process. President Fattah Sisi yesterday, he casted his ballot, and of course when these scenes are seen from Egyptians abroad, it gives them the assurance that they have to share and to be very calm and feel safe during sharing and giving their votes.
Absolutely. On that note, I'd like to thank you very, very much. Our guest for the afternoon, Dr. Marian Gerges, the journalist. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time and your insight. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, do stay tuned as we continue our coverage of the parliament.